on now to our nutshell talk by Rosetta Wang. Rosetta is going to speak to us about native plants for agroforestry and the value-added products that can be made from California native perennials. Background on Rosetta. Rosetta's been part of this group for a long time, and she's the founder of Laurelate, a California native chocolate alternative company that provides a native, vegan, and local alternative to cacao by using California Bay Laurel nuts. Their chocolate alternative is crafted from responsibly harvested bay laurel nuts, supporting regenerative agroforestry and reducing fire risk while honoring indigenous food traditions. And I have tried the chocolate, and it is delicious. All right, Rosetta, if you're ready, I can turn it over to you.
Let's see. Am I presenting?
Yeah, looks great.
Oh, good. Goody. Okay, so we make chocolate alternatives with the California Bay Laurel tree. And so this is the leaf, and this is the fruit and the nut. And so basically we take the nut and we shell the fruit, and we shell the nut, we husk the fruit, we shell the nut, we roast it, and we grind it, and it directly substitutes cacao. And why is that hard? Well, in the plant world, there are few plants that have a fat that is solid at room temperature. So we're thinking like lard and butter. Those aren't plants. And we're thinking chocolate, coconut oil, shea butter. And then I can't really think of a lot after that. And so those are tropical plants, right? And so right here we have a temperate plant. And the California Bay Laurel is this temperate tree that produces a 98% saturated fat. And it, that is able to form this chocolate alternative, which is an exceptional plant. And it's a native plant. And that's what I want to emphasize, is that it is native and that we can do this in the native range. And on Amy's data, I saw that the prioritization of the native plants in agroforestry was pretty spread, but also skewed not very well. And well, what I'm pitching to you guys is the value of native plants. So that's what I'm pushing. Because inside agroforestry, we have all sorts of things. And then we have forest farming is a cohort that's arisen out of this like larger umbrella, which is looking closer to native plants in agroforestry, or like maybe more intact forest ecosystems. And then I'm really excited that Stephanie was talking about indigenous agroforestry, because that's like, now we're on it. Yeah, I'm selling to you guys the value of the native forest. So if we compare, if on the right side, this is what we've got going on. We got this is the native tree. It's the cornerstone of the ecosystem, right? And so what's our like opportunity cost? What's our alternative? It's land that doesn't get to see succession because it's grazed. And so that's what we're looking at in California, is like the comparing a native tree crop to other agricultural products that we could be alternatively producing. And there's also international externality to producing this tree crop because it's a it's a direct replacement for cacao. And um, we're looking at where cacao is grown. It's not grown in its native region. 70% of it's grown in Africa. And Africa has a biodiversity hotspot in the equatorial rainforests. You know, gorillas, all sorts of amazing animals that live in a multi-story canopy that is a lot taller than just a cacao tree. A cacao tree is the first story of this multi-story ecosystem. And um, well, in Central and South America, it is, still a short tree in its um, habitat. But so the externality is that you're saving rainforests in equatorial regions and by replacing cacao, and they're actually like 1.5 to 2 million child slaves in hard labor conditions working these lands. So in Africa, that's a lot of children. There are stores actually all over from Africa, and they're like taken to these plantations. And that's a huge externality to these industries. And when we look at these trees, actually a cacao tree is like small, and it only produces 1.3 kilograms of cacao a year, which is not a lot. It's not that efficient. And really the only reason we can have the cost of cacao today is because it relies on the complete exploitation of the environments and people living in those farming areas. Like, they don't get to create value out of their raw material. They export their beans, and all of the income and profit goes to industries in Belgium and manufacturing hubs, and those are like just not allowed to exist in Africa, where the raw material is. So our cost of cacao exists at its price, which is it's a price that's more expensive than other tree nuts, but it exists at that price because of exploitation. And things like tariffs and climate change and other labor scrutiny is going to cause the cost of cacao to rise. And so I'm painting a picture of the cost of cacao because that just is the closest analog to the value of this tree nut that has a fat that is very similar, that can form a chocolate bar. And the California Bay Laurel tree, a lot of y'all are familiar with it. It's this beautiful tree. It's tall. The leaves are fragrant. The leaves have been used as a spice in in California, but it's also been on the market and is sold in stores as a spice. So this tree has nuts that has indigenous precedents for consumption, just not agricultural and commercial precedents. So it's the top of the canopy. It's mixed with the oaks, and it's not just a shrub. It's not like an understory. It's not like an elderberry. It's the full thing. And so it produces like potentially like 50 kilograms of nuts a year. which is like a large margin more productive. So there's I'm painting a picture of the potential for this native tree to be successful agriculturally at scale. And when I say at scale, I don't, mean to paint a picture of an, an orchard as you traditionally see it. Because it's native, we can have this tree hosting all sorts of native biodiversity that builds on these temperate forest ecosystems. And that's really exciting because on one hand, like currently I'm implementing this, forest farming approach on some private land that, we'll be able to practice our versions of pruning and management and spacing and fertilization that will help, us experiment with increasing yields. And we can practice that on private land, but we can also create partnerships with more like land trusts, indigenous communities that have land that's also like trust land, like regional parks, national forests, state parks. We've already gotten commercial bayonet collection permits from some national forests, which is part of USDA. So I'm trying to bridge all these opportunities of implementing this wonderful native tree. So this is the product. It looks like chocolate, right? But there's no cacao. So hopefully as we're entering the market, we can get more people to enjoy this alternative. The people who are familiar with chocolate, that's our market. And hopefully that it'll be it'll snowball and it'll be a quick, a small gap to get people moving from chocolate to a convincing native alternative. What does it taste like? It doesn't taste exactly like chocolate because it's a different tree nut. So it's got a little bit of a mocha flavor is what people say. And what's exciting is that right now I'm like refining roasting techniques, which is so artisanal. It's such a craft, roasting, to bring out our favorite flavors that are most marketable. And other than chocolate, we can press the fat, and that's a fully saturated fat grown in a temperate climate. That's amazing. In its native range, also amazing. A saturated fat, similar to cocoa, shea, coconut oil, and that could be separated from the solids, which can be like a powder, like a cocoa powder alternative, and it can be roasted to a profile that is more resembles coffee. So we're looking at serving chocolate, but also like it's a coffee alternative that it doesn't have caffeine, it doesn't have theobromine. or caffeine. So it won't kill your dog. Whereas chocolate will kill your dog. And so to start, like my go-to-market approach is chocolate resembling products. And then like we can do more wholesaling of ingredients for the butters and the solids, which can go to cafes, and it could go to body butters and creams and white chocolate, other cooking applications. And so that sounded so pitch-like, and I'll just excuse it for sounding so pitch-like because I have been like working on these ideas that's geared towards, gaining more traction and investment. But it's also important to compel an audience like this on the like scalability and efficiency of native plants, because um, native plants are the solution. Native plants in their range, and that's what I stand behind.
Thank you, Rosetta. That was fascinating.